Minnesota passing on Curry twice in the same draft, which was a disaster when it happened. Is that now the biggest draft mistake of our lifetime? When you think they took a point guard 2 times in a row, Rubio was the right pick. I think Rubio was probably a higher ceiling, higher upside pick at the time. And I thought my 3 favorite guys in the draft were Rubio and Curry, and I can't remember who the third guy was. But Rubio going ahead of Curry with the first one, I was totally fine with it. I think it's still defensible. But then they took Johnny Flynn over Curry. And I still think it's one of the crazy. It was in the moment one of the craziest picks in the history of the draft. And now I think it's the biggest mistake anyone's made, unless you want to throw Bagley over Luka at me. Since we've known each other. So this century.
Yeah. The Rubio thing, you have to understand how much everyone liked Rubio. Okay. It was shit. Were people more excited about Rubio than Luka? Because it was still this unknown. We were reading about Rubio, I think, when he was in junior high.
I was all in. I would have emptied my NBA stock account on Rubio. Okay. Watching him go against those 08 guys when he was 17, I was, this guy's going to be transcendent. And he went into the worst situation possible and he got hurt.
And he still ended up having a decent, I mean, look, he was contributing this year. The shooting, was never what you wanted it to be. But defensively, I actually thought he ended up being a better player than the beginning of his career. We were like, how is this guy going to survive out there defensively?
Also, the league changed. He made more sense in the 2000s than he did 5 years later when shooting became so much more important than it was in 2008 and 2009. Like somebody like Rondo could dominate 3 straight playoff rounds without a jump shot. And so Rubio, all the stuff that he did just made more sense back then than I think it did in 2016.
And it was fun as hell to watch. Like you would see some of these, he would have this stuff before the draft where he would drive and he knew where the trailer always was. And it was just this blind behind the back thing. Or, you know how Luka now will drive, and I still think he kicks it out at the rim too often, but he knows exactly where it's like the receiver quarterback thing we talked about in the past, but he'll go up and he'll flip it behind his head, just knowing if I have enough on this, it's going to end up in the corner. And that's where the guy's supposed to be anyway when I do these drives. Rubio was doing that shit as a teenager before I think anybody. So to look back at the Rubio decision, it made sense at the time. Remember, Steph, he came back and played that next year after the tournament run. It seemed like they were trying to force him to play point guard. But I remember Amin El-Hassan saying, when they thought they were trading for him with Phoenix, he's like, his teammates were so bad at catching his passes, they had a term for it. And they called it Lovedales. Like you would watch him and then go, actually, that was a great read. So it was weird because the Steph thing felt like, wait, did Davidson just spend this entire year changing who they were as a team just to showcase this guy to make him a lottery pick? Like, this is weird because we had seen so many college scorers that were great guards and great scorers. And you were like, is Steph just going to be another one of these guys because he's so undersized? And what you didn't realize is that, this guy's just built a little, he's wired differently. So
the knock was he was too skinny. And even though he was a great shooter, it was tough to imagine him and being a huge impact guy. I did not believe that knock. I always thought he was special.
So the uniqueness of this question, though, is who else would have 2 opportunities to pass on this guy? So you have to really...
Also, Rubio and Curry together would have made so much sense, even as it was happening. It was like, this should absolutely be what they do.
Because you can't just say like, hey, man, Memphis took a sheep to beat that year. What a whiff. Okay, well, people make bad draft picks. You have to find something that's along the lines of uniqueness of epically fucking it up. And the one that I would come up with is Portland trading out of number 3, where they could have taken Darren Williams or Chris Paul, and they did it to move back to 6 and get another first later on. That was Joel Freeland, and then it was Linus Kaliza, who ended up being Jarrett Jack. So, like, they ended up with Martell Webster when they could have had Chris Paul, and they traded out of the decision to take Chris Paul, and then wanted a point guard. But they'd also taken Telfair the year before.
Right,
they were all in. So that's not just getting it wrong. That's doing something to make sure you get it wrong. And that's why you don't see like all these rumors these next couple of days, Bill. Oh, all these trades. It's one thing to fuck up the pick. It's one thing to trade out and then end up screwing it up historically. And that's why usually there aren't as many trades as everybody thinks there's going to be before the draft.
Darko over Carmelo should be mentioned as well.
or Bosh. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, during the era when somebody could just have a good workout and could just vault over these dudes that we had all this game tape on. That was good. I think the Curry thing is an unbelievable mistake. And it's also a big what if for the Knicks fans because they were one pick away from him. You know, and you think I think they won three more games than the Warriors, but you just think him and Knicks, although they probably would have fucked it up. He probably would have left. And then Kerr, you mentioned the Phoenix thing because I was friends with Kerr back then. They thought they had the Curry trade. And then when the Warriors realized they were going to get him, they basically backed out. But I think it was like Amari and Biedrins. They were flipping like 7 for 14. So Kerr thought he was going to get him. And then he ends up belatedly getting him. And now Kerr, is going to hitch his wagon to him for as long as he possibly can.